What if I told you that one of the most controversial and thought-provoking manifestos ever written didn't come from a politician, philosopher, or even a best-selling author, but from a man who lived completely off the grid, deep in the woods, rejecting everything modern society called progress? Industrial society and its future isn't just a critique of technology, it's a chilling dissection of the modern world we've built, written by someone who believed that our entire way of living is fundamentally broken. The author, Theodore Kaczynski, yes, the same man who became infamously known as the Unabomber, penned this manifesto not as a call for simple reform, but as a warning, a wake-up call he believed the world needed before it was too late. And whether you agree with him or not, the ideas he lays out are so sharp, so piercing, they force you to question everything you thought you understood about progress. Now here's what's fascinating. This isn't some rambling document full of emotion-fueled ranting. It's methodical, logical, and terrifyingly coherent. The central idea? That the industrial technological system we've created, yes, everything from your phone to your fridge, isn't liberating us. It's enslaving us. Kaczynski argues that modern humans are suffering from what he calls surrogate activities. Basically, things we do to feel fulfilled because our actual needs for survival, challenge, and purpose have been taken away by machines and systems that do everything for us. Think about it. When was the last time you built something with your hands, hunted for your food, or even solved a real problem that wasn't just about emails, notifications, or digital deadlines? He says we've traded genuine human freedom for comfort, and that's not just unfortunate. It's deeply unnatural. But let me tell you something surprising. Kaczynski doesn't blame the government, corporations, or even specific individuals. He blames the system itself. According to him, the very nature of technological progress is uncontrollable. Once a new invention is created, we can't just stop it or roll it back, even if it's harmful. Because the system is built in such a way that if one group doesn't adopt it, another will, gaining a competitive edge. So it's not that we chose this path, it's that we were forced down it by the structure of society. And this is where things get really interesting. He doesn't just analyze the problem. He proposes that the only way out is a total collapse of industrial society. That's right, not reform, not regulation, collapse. Because only then, he claims, can we return to a natural state where human beings are truly free, where our actions matter, where we have real agency, and where life, though harder, is actually more fulfilling. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds extreme, even dangerous. And yes, it's important to understand that while the ideas might be intellectually stimulating, Kaczynski's actions in real life crossed moral and legal boundaries that caused immense harm. But the manifesto? It lives in a strange space, part philosophy, part prophecy. It taps into a deep discomfort many of us feel but can't quite articulate. That tension between convenience and control. Between being connected and being watched. Between having everything and yet feeling more anxious, depressed, and disoriented than ever before. Have you ever wondered why, despite all the progress, so many people feel lost? Why mental health crises are rising even in the most developed countries? Kaczynski argues that it's because we're not built for this kind of life. That deep inside us, there's a primal need for challenge, struggle, and real achievement. Not likes, not followers, not spreadsheets. He even dissects how modern society forces us into conformity, not through direct force, but through a web of subtle incentives, penalties, and social expectations. It's not just what we do, it's what we're allowed to want, to dream, to believe. And that hits hard. But here's a twist you might not expect. The manifesto isn't entirely anti-technology. It's anti-system. Kaczynski acknowledges that some technologies are harmless or even beneficial in small-scale societies. What he's against is the systematic dependence, the way technology becomes a self-sustaining monster that shapes every part of our lives, from our jobs to our values to the way we raise our kids. He paints a picture of a future where humans become mere cogs, domesticated, regulated, optimized, but hollow. And suddenly, that vision doesn't feel like science fiction. It feels eerily close. Now imagine you're hearing all this not from a madman, but from someone deeply concerned about freedom, autonomy, and the soul of human existence. That's the paradox of industrial society and its future. It makes you uncomfortable not because it's all wrong, but because so much of it might be right. The chilling part is how it was written before smartphones, before social media, before AI took over our conversations and decisions. And yet, it predicted so much of what we're seeing today. Doesn't that make you wonder, if someone isolated from the world could see all this coming, what are we missing right now while being inside the system? Kaczynski talks about something he calls the power process. It's this idea that human beings need to feel they can exert control over their environment through effort. That without this, we become psychologically unstable. Think of someone training for a marathon, building a home, growing food. That's the power process. But if you remove the challenge and just give people the result, say food delivery, prefab homes, instant gratification, something inside us breaks down. We become bored, anxious, depressed. And here's the real kicker. Kaczynski says modern society knows this. That's why it floods us with distractions, with fake goals, with endless consumer choices. Not to empower us, but to keep us docile. And if that sounds dystopian, well, look around. How many of your daily decisions are actually yours? How much of your life is truly in your control? And what do you think happens to a society that builds more comfort, but loses meaning? Now, before you think this is just all doom and gloom, let me flip it. The manifesto, in its own twisted way, is also a call to reclaim something. It reminds us that freedom isn't just doing what you want, it's having the power to shape your life with your own hands. It's struggle. It's purpose. It's being fully, deeply human in a world that constantly tries to automate, pacify, and distract. And while the path Kaczynski lays out might be radical, even dangerous, the questions he raises are more relevant now than ever. What do we do when the systems we build start controlling us? Can we reverse course? Or is collapse the only way forward? That's not just his question. It's ours. And the answer? Well, that's something only time and maybe courage will tell. Alright, let's dive into part 2, the deeper, darker spiral that makes industrial society and its future so unforgettable. Now, if you thought part 1 was intense, what comes next is where Kaczynski really takes off the gloves. He starts drilling into how deeply the system manipulates not just our behavior, but our psychology, our emotions, even our sense of identity. He makes this haunting claim: modern people have been so conditioned by the system that they don't even realize they're being controlled. It's like being in a cage so long, you forget what freedom even smells like. You stop trying to escape because you think the cage is the world. Kaczynski talks about how society rewards obedience, not creativity, not resilience, not independent thinking. The moment you question too much, disrupt too loudly, or refuse to conform, the system isolates you, socially, economically, sometimes even legally. You lose jobs. You lose friends. You're labeled unstable or radical. Sound familiar? He's not just talking about politics or education. He's talking about the very fabric of modern existence. But let me hit you with something that really sticks. He describes modern leftism not as a political ideology, but as a psychological reaction to the system's alienation. He says many people, especially those feeling powerless or marginalized, develop hypersensitivity to oppression, not just because they care, but because they feel weak in their own lives. He believes that activism becomes a surrogate activity, something that feels like purpose, but doesn't actually restore real control or fulfillment. Now, whether or not you agree with that, the idea forces you to step back and ask, how much of what we fight for is about real freedom, and how much is about distracting ourselves from the emptiness of a system-driven life? That's uncomfortable. That's real. And it's part of why this book lingers in your mind long after you've put it down. Kaczynski also warns that the system will never voluntarily reduce its grip. He says reform is a myth, because the system has built-in self-preservation mechanisms. Every piece of new technology, every law, every corporate decision, it all flows in one direction. More control, more efficiency, less individual power. And the scariest part? We celebrate it. We applaud every new convenience, every smart device, every algorithm, without realizing we're handing over more and more of our lives. Think about it. Who actually understands how the internet works anymore? Or who controls the flow of information? How many of us could survive a week without electricity, clean water on tap, or Google Maps? That's not just dependence, that's surrender. Kaczynski says once we pass a certain point, humans will become like domesticated pets, fed, protected, entertained, but utterly powerless. And here's the twist, he says we're already there. We're already living in a post-autonomy society. It's just that most of us haven't realized it yet. Now, here's where he takes a final leap, and it's the part that made the world stop and stare. He insists that nothing short of total revolution, specifically against the entire industrial system, will restore freedom. Not just changing who's in charge, not just tweaking policies, but a fundamental breakdown of technological civilization. He suggests that any halfway measure will just be absorbed by the system and turned into more control. It's brutal. It's extreme. But in his mind, it's the only path to real human dignity. He dreams of a return to small, autonomous communities, people surviving through their own labor, solving their own problems, making their own rules. Not perfect, not easy, but human. So what do we do with all this? That's the haunting part. Because whether or not you believe collapse is the answer, the questions remain. Are we free? Or just well managed? Do we control technology? Or does it control us? Are we living meaningful lives? Or just existing in comfort cages? Kaczynski's vision may be radical. His actions were unquestionably destructive. But the manifesto? It holds up a mirror. And in that reflection, we see not just him, but ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real warning we need. Let me know if you'd like a shorter version of this for reels, shorts, or a powerful hook for the beginning of your video. Feel like you're meant for more, but don't know how to get there? You're not alone. Every success story starts with doubt and a spark. The Self-Made Millionaire, Zero to Wealth isn't just a book. It's your roadmap to purpose, confidence, and success, built on real lessons from real millionaires. One reader said, "It didn't feel like a book. It felt like my future talking to me." Inside, you'll find the exact mindset and principles used by the world's most successful people. No fluff, just real, life-changing wisdom. Ready to take the first step? Get it 100% free. Just subscribe and comment "book" below.